Have you ever stopped to think about why so many people try to make money online, but so few actually manage to change their lives doing it? Because I can tell you one thing. After testing 7 different ways to make money online, I realized that most of what's out there simply doesn't work the way they make you believe, and worse. Some of these methods make you waste time, energy, and even money, all while selling the idea of easy and quick financial freedom. And before you think this is just another one of those typical how to get rich online videos, let me tell you something important. This isn't theory. It's not opinion. It's a real experiment. I literally went there and tested, one by one, these ways of making money online, trying to understand what really works when nobody is selling you an exaggerated promise. And maybe you've been through this too. You've clicked on videos, seen ads, heard promises of extra income, quick money, working from anywhere in the world. And yet, at the end of the month, nothing really changes. Have you ever experienced this? That feeling of always starting something new, but never getting anywhere. The most curious thing is that when you start in this world of personal finance and wealth building, everything seems very simple at first. Dropshipping, affiliates, trading, digital marketing, artificial intelligence, passive income, it all seems like a gateway to a new life. But when you really get into it, the reality changes completely. And that's exactly what I wanted to find out. I no longer wanted to just watch videos about making money online or listen to generic advice about a wealth mindset. I wanted to test it in practice. I wanted to understand what truly has the potential for financial growth and what is just a well-packaged illusion. And the result was far more shocking than I imagined. Some of these 7 ways to make money online seemed promising at first, but quickly crumbled when I got into the details. Others even worked, but required a type of effort or strategy that nobody talks about in viral videos. And there was one that, of all of them, was the only one that truly showed a consistent path, even if it's not what most people expect to hear. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. Not just about how to make money online, but about why most people never manage to get anywhere when it comes to money. And perhaps most importantly of all, what truly separates those who only try from those who start building real wealth online. But before reaching that conclusion, you need to understand exactly what happened in each of those attempts. And before I continue showing you each of these attempts, I need to ask you something simple, but important. If this has made sense to you in some way, so far, whether because you've already tried to make money online, or because you've been frustrated by promises of extra income, or even because you're currently in this phase of seeking financial freedom, then take a moment and tell me in the comments, what has caught your attention the most so far? Was it the idea that most methods don't work as they seem? Was it the feeling that everyone starts out enthusiastic, but few actually get anywhere? I really want to know, because this completely changes how I build future content for this channel. When you comment, you're not just responding to a video. You're helping me understand what truly makes sense to the person on the other side of the screen. And that directly influences what I'll be bringing you from now on, regarding personal finance, wealth mindset, and how to truly build something solid online. And if this type of content has already captivated you this far, please also leave a like on the video. It may seem simple, but this helps YouTube understand that this topic is relevant and allows more people who are in exactly the same situation as you to find this content as well. And of course, if you feel you want to follow this journey and see the next steps in this real experiment about making money online, subscribe to the channel. Because what comes after this isn't theory, it's not empty motivation. It's the continuation of this test, showing in practice what works and what is just an illusion in the digital world. Now that you understand the context and what's behind this experiment, we can truly delve into the first attempts. The real reason I conducted this experiment wasn't simply curiosity or a desire to test random things on the internet. It was something deeper, almost a need to understand what truly lies behind all this talk about making money online. Because, in practice, there's a huge difference between what's sold and what actually works when you're on the other side. Trying to turn it into real results, I started noticing a strange pattern. Everyone talks about financial freedom, about building income online, about changing their lives with simple strategies, but almost no one shows the complete reality of the journey. There's always a missing piece, a hidden truth that isn't clearly stated. And this creates a very dangerous illusion, because it makes it seem like the problem is with you, when in reality the problem lies in the expectations that have been created. That's when I decided to step out of the spectator role and get into the game for real, to test it in practice, unfiltered, without romanticizing anything. And in that process, I began to see something that completely changes the way we understand personal finance and wealth building. It's not just about technique, nor just about opportunity. There's a deeper layer that involves mindset, decisions, and especially how you react when things don't go as expected. And this showed me another side of this journey that almost no one talks about. A side that doesn't appear in motivational videos, nor in promises of quick income. A side that involves frustration, trial and error, and, above all, real learning. Because each of the methods I tested showed me not only what doesn't work, but also the impact that this has on your way of thinking and acting. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when you start to observe all of this closely, you realize that it's not just about methods for making money online, but about how small decisions along the way completely shape your final result and even your vision of what is possible or not in your own journey. And when we look at all this more calmly, it becomes very clear what mistake almost everyone makes when trying to earn money online. And it's not a lack of effort, nor a lack of intelligence, nor a lack of opportunity, as many people initially believe. The problem is much more subtle, and, at the same time, much more impactful than it seems. Most people enter this world seeking quick results. They want to transform their financial lives in a short time, and this creates a distortion in how they view any method. Anything that seems too simple is immediately overestimated, and anything that requires consistency is ignored. This is the first major pitfall on the journey. What happens is that, in this process, decisions cease to be strategic and become emotional. The person jumps from one idea to another, always searching for the next perfect opportunity, without realizing that they are repeating the same pattern of behavior that prevents any kind of solid construction. And this creates a kind of invisible cycle of frustration. The most interesting thing is that this mistake isn't obvious while you're experiencing it. On the contrary, it even seems logical. After all, if something didn't work quickly, it seems natural to try something else. But what almost no one realizes is that, in the context of making money online, this constant change of direction prevents any deep learning. And without learning, there is no real evolution in your ability to generate income. This has a direct impact on mindset. People start to believe that the problem is the method, when in reality the problem lies in how they are interacting with the methods. And this difference completely changes the trajectory of anyone trying to build something online. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when you start to see this pattern clearly, you realize that it's not just about making money online, but about how small decisions accumulated over time shape your financial reality and even the way you perceive your own potential for transformation in your life. Comment below. Does this make sense to me? And when we finally start observing this pattern more closely, it becomes much easier to understand why the first attempt almost always fails completely. Not because the idea itself is bad, but because the way it's executed carries a series of unrealistic expectations, distortions of perception, and a haste that ends up sabotaging the entire process from the start. In my case, the first way I tried to make money online seemed extremely promising at first. Everything was presented as simple, fast, and accessible. The initial feeling is almost always one of excitement, as if you've found a kind of shortcut to a new financial reality. But what nobody shows you at this stage is that this first impression usually hides all the complexity that comes later. And that's precisely where the real impact of the experience begins. Because when you truly commit, putting in energy, time, and expectation, you start to realize that there's a huge difference between what was promised and what happens in practice. And that difference isn't small. It directly affects your motivation, your mindset, and even how you interpret your own effort. The most interesting thing about this first attempt is that it doesn't fail immediately and obviously. It fails gradually, due to the lack of consistent results, small daily frustrations, and the feeling that something isn't fitting together as it should. And this creates a kind of silent weariness, which often makes the person give up before even understanding what was really wrong. And it was at this point that I began to see a hidden truth in this process. It's not just about the strategy itself, but about the alignment between expectation, execution, and patience. When these three elements are misaligned, any method seems to fail, even if it has potential in another context. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when you analyze this first mistake more closely, you realize that it's not just an isolated error, but the beginning of a sequence of decisions that shape the entire transformation journey. And this completely changes how you perceive the real impact of trying to build income online. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Write this down. I'm on this journey to hide. And when that first experience doesn't yield the expected result, the natural reaction of most people is to accelerate the process even further, as if the solution lay in trying more things, faster. And that's exactly what happened in the other attempts I made afterward. Each new idea seemed to carry a different promise, almost as if it were finally the right one. A smarter, more modern, more efficient way to make money online. But, in practice, the pattern repeated itself in a way that was almost invisible at first. The initial excitement, the feeling of potential, the expectation of rapid transformation. And then, little by little, reality began to appear. The most curious thing is that these other attempts didn't fail dramatically. They failed silently. Small signs that something wasn't translating into real impact. Lack of consistency in results, difficulty scaling, or simply the feeling that the effort wasn't aligned with the expected return. And this, added together, creates a kind of mental fatigue that directly affects the clarity of decisions. At that point, I began to realize something important about the financial journey. It's not the number of attempts that brings you closer to the result, but the depth to which you understand what's happening in each one. When you just change direction without absorbing the learning, you don't evolve, you just restart the cycle in a different format, and this creates a dangerous illusion of progress. Because outwardly, it seems like you're always moving forward, always trying something new. But internally, you remain stuck at the same level of understanding about how things really work in the world of making money online and building wealth. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when you start looking at these consecutive failures in sequence, you realize that they are not isolated events, but part of the same mindset pattern, where the pursuit of quick results ends up hiding the true key to transformation, which lies in how you interpret each attempt within your own journey of impact and growth. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Comment below, does this make sense to me? And it was precisely in this accumulation of attempts, errors, and small frustrations that something happened that completely changed the way I saw all of this. It wasn't a magical moment, nor a sudden discovery. It was more like a silent turning point, where some pieces began to fit together and the real game behind making money online began to become clearer. Until then, I was looking at each method as an isolated solution, as if the problem lay in the strategy itself. But gradually, I began to realize that the real difference wasn't in the method, but in how it was applied within a larger context of mindset, consistency, and decision-making. This completely changes the perspective on what truly generates results, because when you start to analyze it more deeply, you realize there's an invisible layer to this entire financial transformation journey, a layer that doesn't appear in quick promise videos or simplified success stories. This layer involves discipline, understanding long-term impact, and, most importantly, the ability to persevere even when results aren't immediate. And it was at that moment that everything started to become clearer. The failures ceased to be just failures and became data. Each attempt began to reveal something about behavior, about expectations, and about the type of decision that truly brings someone closer to or further away from building a solid online income base. This brought about a very strong internal change in how I viewed my own journey. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when you understand this turning point more carefully, you realize that the real game isn't about finding the next perfect opportunity, but about learning to interpret each step as part of a larger process of evolution, where true transformation happens behind the scenes of your mindset and your daily decisions. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Write this down. I'm on this journey too. And after going through all these attempts, failures, and internal adjustments of perception, a moment arrived when one of the methods finally began to stand out from the others. Not because it seemed easier or faster, but quite the opposite. It was the only one that didn't depend on the illusion of immediate results, but rather on consistent construction over time. The most interesting thing is that, at first glance, this approach didn't seem as attractive as the others. It didn't come with exaggerated promises, didn't talk about easy money, and didn't create that feeling of instant transformation. But there was something different about its structure, something more solid, almost as if it were aligned with the reality of what is truly necessary to generate real financial impact on the internet. When I started applying it more seriously, I realized that the result didn't come from a single move, but from a sequence of small actions that, together, began to create something consistent. And that completely changed how I understood the process of making money online. It was no longer about finding a perfect idea, but about understanding how to transform a common idea into something sustainable. And this turning point brought important clarity about what truly separates those who try from those who begin to see results. It's not luck, it's not a hidden secret, and it's not a magic formula. It's the ability to persevere even when growth is slow, to adjust course without abandoning the process, and to see value in what seems small at first but has the potential to scale in the long term. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because, when you observe this single method that worked more closely, you begin to understand that the real difference isn't in the method itself, but in the mindset shift it requires, and how that directly impacts every decision within the journey of transformation and wealth building. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Comment below, does this make sense for me? And when I started looking more closely at this one method that actually worked, one thing became very clear: it wasn't based on shortcuts. And that alone put it on a completely different level from other attempts. While everything I had tested before revolved around quick results and promises of instant transformation, here the scenario was different, more real, more consistent, and much more connected to building something solid over time. The reason this approach worked when others failed has nothing to do with luck or perfect timing, but with structure. There's a huge difference between something that relies on hype and something that relies on process. And that difference, when you truly understand it, completely changes how you view any opportunity within the universe of making money online. In other attempts, everything seemed to depend on a magical turning point, as if at some point things would simply start working on their own. But in this one successful method, I realized that there is no such isolated moment. What exists is a gradual construction, made of consistency, constant adjustments, and a mindset much more aligned with the long term than with immediate gratification. And this led me to an even deeper understanding of the impact of decisions. Because when you stop looking for the quickest way and start looking at the most sustainable path, you inevitably change how you react to initial results. Instead of giving up quickly, you start to analyze, adjust, and understand what's really happening behind the scenes of each small action. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when you connect all of this with the idea of financial transformation and wealth building, you realize that the real difference lies not only in the chosen strategy, but in the mental maturity needed to sustain that strategy until it truly begins to generate a consistent impact on your journey. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Write this down: I'm on this journey too. Hide. And after understanding why this one method worked when all others failed, an inevitable question arises. What do you really need to understand before trying to make money online? Because this is a step that almost no one takes seriously. But it completely defines the type of results a person will get later on. Most people enter this world believing that the most important thing is finding the right strategy, as if there were a hidden method, ready to solve everything immediately. But the truth is that, before any method, there is a much more important layer that is almost always ignored: how you interpret the entire process. If you approach this with a rushed mindset, everything will seem unstable. If you expect immediate results, any small difficulty will seem like a sign that nothing is working. And this creates a dangerous distortion, because it causes you to abandon paths that could work simply because they haven't delivered a quick impact. What I began to realize, within this journey of trial and error, is that making money online isn't a straight line. It's a process full of adjustments, learning, and small course corrections. And when you truly understand this, you stop acting impulsively and start making more conscious, strategic decisions, much more aligned with long-term planning. There's also a hidden truth in this process that almost no one talks about. The result you see later on is directly proportional to your ability to stay in the game during the phase where nothing seems to be working. And this phase, however uncomfortable it may be, is exactly where the transformation begins to truly happen. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when you connect this understanding with everything you've experienced in previous attempts, you realize that the biggest obstacle was never the method itself, but how the initial mindset influences every decision, every expectation, and every reaction within the journey of financial impact and wealth building. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Comment below: does this make sense to me? And after going through this whole sequence of trials, errors, adjustments, and mindset shifts, the most important question ends up arising almost naturally. What would I do today if I were starting from scratch? Because when you remove all the noise, all the false promises, and all the anxiety for quick results, the scenario changes completely. If I were starting out today, the first thing I wouldn't do is try to chase multiple ideas at once. I wouldn't repeat the mistake of jumping from one opportunity to another without depth. Instead, I would choose a simple path, but with real growth potential, and immerse myself in it consistently enough to understand how it actually works in practice. This completely changes the logic of the journey, because it's no longer about finding something perfect right from the start, but about building clarity through action. And that clarity only comes when you stay within a process long enough to see the hidden patterns, mistakes, and opportunities that aren't visible at the beginning. Another important point is that I wouldn't look for immediate results as a measure of success. I understand that, in the beginning, what's most valuable isn't the money itself, but the learning that comes from repetition, adjustments, and the evolution of one's own mindset. Because that's what, in the long run, separates those who just try from those who truly build something solid in the world of making money online. And perhaps, most importantly of all, I would treat each step as part of a larger transformation, not as an isolated solution. This changes how you react to difficulties, how you interpret initial results, and how you position yourself within your own wealth-building journey. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because when you look at all of this in perspective, you begin to realize that starting from scratch isn't about finding the perfect path, but about developing the right mindset to navigate the entire process with awareness, clarity, and a real understanding of the impact of each decision throughout this transformative journey. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Comment below: does this make sense for me? And if you've made it this far, this probably wasn't just another video for you. Maybe some of these ideas made sense in a different way. Maybe they made you think more calmly about how you've been approaching money, your attempts, and even the very idea of making money online. If this happened to you, it makes sense for you to subscribe to the channel, Because what I bring here isn't about shortcuts or quick fixes, but about real understanding, mindset, and building something solid over time. And this type of conversation will continue to happen here, always with this focus on clarity and truth behind what nobody usually shows. And if this content stayed with you until the end, comment below with a simple phrase, "I'm with you until the end," just so I know you've been on this journey with me and that this message truly stayed with you from beginning to end. If at any point this video made you reflect or helped you see something differently, please leave a like, because that helps this content reach more people who are on the same quest for transformation and financial growth. And now, if you want to continue along this line of thought, there's another video here that delves even deeper into this idea of mindset and wealth building in practice. Click on it and continue reading.